everyone, and welcome back to the Empowered Up podcast. Every episode, I give you an inside look into what happens here at Trinity Hall and the people that make it happen. My name is Chloe Toole. I'm the communications coordinator here at Trinity Hall, and I also graduated with the class of 2017. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Erin Straine on the podcast. Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hi, Chloe.
Thank you for being here with us.
My pleasure.
Well, Erin is our art and design teacher here at Trinity Hall and has been a part of our faculty since the very beginning.
Yep.
And Erin has given students an outlet to explore art throughout their time at Trinity Hall. And as we've grown as a school, you have grown our arts program. So we are grateful for you to be here today and talk to us about all of that. So I thought we could get started with you telling us a little bit about your background and, how you ended up at Trinity Hall.
Okay. So my background is not a linear one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that must be why I like design so much, because it's not, design is a non-linear way to approach problems and projects. And so I have always worked in a service oriented profession. I began working in healthcare a long time ago, where I assisted patients in their rehabilitation process to physically, and then I shifted mid-career towards the study of design because my passions lied there, and I went back to school to Parsons School of Design in New York City. I studied fine art and fashion design, and after I was finished there, I did an entrepreneurial stint where I started my own handbag business. I knew the founders that started Trinity Hall, and our children went to the same elementary school together, and one of those founders approached me one day in the parking lot and said, "Hey, you should put your resume into Trinity Hall. It's that new all-girls school." And I said, "I'm well aware. I've been following along. I went to some of the meetings in the beginning where they were, looking at the area and see where the interest was to start the school." I went to an all-girls school myself, a Catholic all-girls school. I grew up outside of Philadelphia in Delaware, and I had a good experience there. So I didn't think I was the right person for the job, because I went online and saw some of the faculty that had been working in education for a long time, and I was working as a designer. I didn't go to school as an educator per se. I had taught some courses at Holy Cross for a little bit, but so I said, why not? I'll put my resume in. And sure enough, the former head, Mary Scarilla, had put a call into me and asked me if I wanted to interview, and here I am a decade later. So it must have went well.
Yeah, it did. At Trinity Hall, students are required to take 2 years of arts, but they definitely have a lot of opportunity to continue to explore the arts beyond those 2 years. Mm-hmm. So they have a lot of options. So I thought maybe you could talk about the different options, what they have to take versus what they kind of can take throughout their time here.
So our arts curriculum was designed with the intention to encourage girls to encourage them and support their experiential learning here, because we like to say that a lot around here. We want to immerse students or have them connect to some kind of concept or anything that they do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so with the arts, we focus on them uncovering and developing their creative process. Okay, and creative process, everybody has it. It's what differentiates humans from the animals. And sometimes you just have to awaken that, because it's there when you're in kindergarten and you're just free with the way that you can attach to that side of your brain, but it goes to sleep after a while because you're not engaging it enough. Mm-hmm. So it's a complete exploration as soon as they hit the ground here. In their first year, we have built a wonderful foundation that kind of weaves in with their academic schedule. So they can take courses in drawing with myself, mm-hmm. and then we have a beginning courses in theater and music. And all of those foundational courses kind of gets them to be comfortable doing things that they didn't think that they could do. So we're getting rid of these misconceptions of what's beautiful and what's not beautiful, what they think is good or what they think is bad. And we're encouraging to just find their path to get there, because if they learn how to think differently, and this happens in all of our classes here, like especially we do a different math program. We teach math much differently than other schools. And it's all about teaching you a different way of looking at how I approach thinking or how I approach the critical thinking process. So our foundational courses do that. And then once they get through that foundational period in the sophomore year, they can kind of spin in whichever direction they feel that they've gained a confidence in. I mean, we still encourage them to keep that exploration going. Like if there's a student that says, well, I'm really into performance, we would encourage them to, hey, why don't you try a design, see if you can get into Mrs. Straine's graphic design, because you never know what you can do in that space. Or if you took Theater 1, which deals with a lot of improvisational games, those improvisational games in Theater 2 would be adjusted to the year that they are at that particular moment. Like what skills in the sophomore year that we feel they need to receive in order to branch out in the junior and senior years here.
Yeah, that's great. And then for our juniors and seniors, they can definitely pick what they want to do, right?
Yeah. So our elective pool is constantly changing. I mean, all the disciplines are starting to add different electives that juniors and seniors can choose. Like we have 2 advanced placement offerings in the arts, which are like my AP offering is new. That's AP 2D art and design. They can take that in the senior year because there'll be some prerequisite that they should take in some advanced electives in order to be prepared to attack that AP for the College Board credit. Now, music theory, we've had AP music theory for maybe 4 or 5 years now, and it's going well. But again, in the junior year, they should take honors music theory as a prerequisite to get into some of those advanced electives. We have advanced electives in psychology, economics, we're adding a creative writing elective next year. So this elective base, we would encourage girls to enhance their academic schedules all the time with things that interest them, because colleges like to see a fruitful application.
Yeah, and maybe explore an interest that maybe they can expand on in college, or
like,
just to have something else besides.
Yeah, we encourage girls that maybe never have used an instrument before to come in and pick up an instrument and learn about how to play that instrument, and then a lot of times they can do instrumental or chorus after school, like, and learn a new skill. So yeah, we're very inclusive in how we like encourage students to take electives.
And they change like every other year, right?
So we'll shift. So the theater classes and the my classes will shift. So sometimes I'll have sculpture as an option for a junior or senior, or I'll have an industrial product design for a junior or senior to take. And we do teach like monologue or theater set design. So those types of electives will shift out. So students that may not have had the option to take it one year can take it in the following year.
You and Mrs. Lambrew started the Humm Institute, which is a business entrepreneurship program here at Trinity Hall. So can you explain what it is to our viewers, and what do students gain being a part of this program?
So we like to call it an entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we combined each of our expertise together. So my expertise is in the business of design. So teaching design and entrepreneurism as a way to think. Okay? And I mentioned that. And we encourage that here. A different way to think, a non-linear way to think, a non-traditional way to think. Okay, so we wanted a space where they could take those elements, those steps on how to think, and put it to work, like to see it go to good use. So we used the steps of design thinking, and last year we ran our first workshop, and we started with sophomore students because we felt that they were at the right time and space to be able to engage with this type of thinking, and it could only help them move forward in the junior and senior year.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to encourage young women to use their natural ability to be empathetic in the world, and that is one of the huge steps in design thinking, is that we teach human-centered work here, and we want to socially impact the world, and we need way more ambassadors who feel comfortable doing that. And the Humm Institute, we are trying to make that almost its own little working space within the larger community of Trinity Hall. So that's why it's an ecosystem, because we want these girls to connect with our community in different ways. So our parent partners, our stakeholders, community experts. That first workshop, the girls to get collectively form teams. They chose an issue which was our outdoor landscape that needed a little TLC, and we brought in some community partners that through a parent connection of students here, so the ecosystem was working already, and they worked with those community partners and came up with team ideas for solutions to our problem using the steps of design thinking and entrepreneurism. And they pitched those to a panel of experts. One was chosen, and then all of the girls will have collectively worked together in order to execute the phases of that project. So that's the main thing, to see your work in action, and it's happening. And then we, in the fall, to engage our ambassadors again, we reached out in the community because it's an ecosystem, when we had some young elementary students from a local elementary school, Holy Cross Academy, to work on a global action research project within design. And they worked together to develop a survey to collect data. And our Humm ambassadors wrote a summarization of that work, and we will publish it out into the community. So that is design work in action as well. And we have so many ideas to teach workshops and courses and possibly extra electives under the Humm umbrella, so that we can offer this opportunity to other people to come in, and these girls are to make products come to life using the Institute as a way to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great that you guys have really engaged the community partners, not only in getting expert opinions and having experts teach the girls, but also them turning around and teaching younger girls and inspiring them to, start thinking in this way, and business entrepreneurship. They really are amazing and so impressive. And I think it's an amazing thing that you guys are doing.
One thing I forgot to mention, we also reach out to former alumni, because they're part of our ecosystem. And we did have Olivia Di Nicola, who had just won her own pretty much Shark Tank at where she is at Bucknell. And so she offered a little bit of encouragement during the workshop to our young ladies. So that's awesome, and it's all part of that entrepreneurial ecosystem I spoke about. But we always love hearing from our alumni, or alumni, because y'all are the bosses and you're doing your thing, and it reinforces that what we're doing in here is working. It's working. So
and in college, these girls having this foundation in business and entrepreneurship, they can explore that beyond Trinity Hall. And like you said before, everything's so interdisciplinary that they can combine two passions or an interest and design and make it one.
Yeah, we teach so many different interesting courses that can all go into the business of design, like financial literacy with economics. There's so many things that we, as we're expanding this elective base here, I love elective courses, they're so cool. But as we expand that, it's always connected into our main academic thread, which is basically to empower young women to know their strengths in wherever they are, and to relish in them and go out and share them with the world. So we're doing something right.
Awesome.
And then we'll start planning for our first spring workshop. So with the intent that our ambassadors now, as they move into their senior year, because they're juniors now, they will they will pass that torch in the spring and initiate new 10th grade ambassadors into the workshop. So we'll run it the same way. There'll be a different, they'll choose a different problem to attack, and then they'll continue with phases, hopefully 1, 2, and 3 of their landscape design.
So the ecosystem continues.
Correct. Yep. And they'll come back and see their work in action.
Yeah.
They'll see it develop, because with design there's iterations and shifts and changes, so they'll get to see that happen too. And they'll be a part of it. So it's good.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about starting with sophomores, is that like they
here.
really have that time to see it.
Yeah.
So another question that I have for you is more of a personal question. You went back and got your master's.
I did.
At Parsons School of Design in New York City.
I did.
In strategic design and management.
Yep.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that, about getting your master's while you're teaching, and if it informed or kind of helped you while you were teaching here?
It did. I'm always a lifelong learner, and I think every good professional, any professional, will tell you is that it's never over once your degree is put to bed. Like you have to keep abreast of all the new things that are happening in your field, and you try to be knowledgeable about those things. And design is no different. I did it because I felt that I like to stay current with what's going on in the field. And it was really weird and interesting. I never thought in a million years that I would learn anything from these students who were a lot younger than I was. But I did. I did, and I gained a new perspective on how to look at things. And it was a fairly new program at Parsons. Like, people, like when I say what I studied, they don't really understand it. But now they are starting to understand it, because what it did was it taught individuals, some of the language was very entrepreneurial. Like there were a lot of people that wanted to learn how to start their own startups or their own businesses and how to go about doing that. But there were a lot of people that just wanted to learn about the field of design and like the business of it. And some of them would call it, oh, this is the creative MBA. So it's teaching this new way to think, and we're very well versed in each of the steps on how to do that. Yeah. And we share it with, like, organizations will hire people to do it. So I wanted to be one of those people, because I felt that I could serve the students so much better, and we could do so many cool things with having somebody that was current in all of that. So that's why I went back to school, and I immediately, the whole premise for Humm is, a lot of it is in my industrial design class. I used some things that we did in my own graduate work, and I've implemented them into the curriculum that I designed for the classes here.
That is awesome.
So everything's connected. So anything that I learn, I'm constantly reading. I'm thinking about maybe that attacking that doctorate. Who knows? But that's why I went back to school.
That's great. And I think not only is the coursework that you did and being able to teach it to our girls and, through your courses and the Humm Institute is amazing, but also inspiring them to be lifelong learners and stay curious and really explore their passions in different ways. I think that's a great example for them. So I think in both ways that you were able to get your master's, it really is inspiring. And I think I'm glad that you're able to bring it back to the classroom.
Yeah, I don't recommend working full time, but it's doable. Yeah. It's doable.
That is awesome.
That was good. I was happy I did it.
That's awesome. So I have one last question for you, which I ask everyone. What advice do you have for our students or our listeners? What advice do you have? That's or tough. Inspiration.
I mean, know that there's not one way to get somewhere. I think a lot of times young people, and back then myself included, get caught up that you have to do this step, this step, this step, this step in order to look successful or be successful or to get in college or whatever that goal is that you're trying to achieve. And I am a prime example of that is not true. Yeah. You may take a step, do something, not like it or fail, but you think if you fail, you can't redirect and go in an opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, embrace those failures because they bring you into a whole other space. And we say that here, mistakes are good, mistakes are important.
Yeah.
I mean, because I just feel like every human, it's like it is a blank slate. Like, it's an iterative process to be, right?
Uh-huh.
So you can take your path however way that makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to offer that advice, I would. Like,
Yeah.
because life is meant for experience. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't fret the failures.
Mm-hmm.
They're where you grow. Believe me, I've failed a lot. Like, I failed a lot.
Uh-huh.
Like, started businesses, they didn't fail, and never did I think I would be teaching in a classroom for the past decade, but here I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's life takes you in all these twists and turns, and you got to just embrace those things.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And like you said, you're like a prime example.
Yeah.
And I think along the way, too, those failures and different experiences help you in the long run. And
Yeah.
I'm sure your old experiences or your failed businesses have helped you create new ones and have helped you gain experience. Thank you so much for joining us, Erin. I was blown away by what you had to say, and I'm so glad we got to highlight the arts program on the podcast. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chloe. It was so fun.
It was a great conversation. I loved having you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for tuning in to the Empowered Up podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For everyone who's watching on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. And if you're listening on SoundCloud, give us a like and follow there too. Tune in next time for another guest who will be from the Trinity Hall community and will give us another look into the different types of things we do here.